Western actors you've seen
Or show-offs with guns.
100 times,
Ain't that something for you? That's something for me, ain't it?
but never knew.
Looking at the...
There's a strange thing about Western movies. You can watch dozens of them, even hundreds, and still feel like you're seeing the same faces over and over again. Not the stars, not the names on the posters, the other ones. The men in the background, the gunmen, the deputies, the outlaws who step forward, say a few lines, then disappear. But here's the part most people don't notice. Some of those actors didn't just appear once or twice. They appeared dozens of times, across different films, different directors, different decades, and they became something unique to the Western genre. Not stars, not extras, but character actors who quietly defined how the West looked, sounded, and felt. Because once you've started recognizing them, you realize the Western wasn't built by stars alone. It was built by the same faces showing up again and again. The face you recognize but can't name. Take Harry Carey Jr. If you've watched enough Westerns, you've seen him. Maybe as a ranch hand, maybe as a soldier, maybe as a man caught up in the middle of someone else's story, but rarely dominates a scene. But he's always present inside it. Working with directors like John Ford, Carey became part of a visual language, a face that audiences trusted, without realizing why. And that's what made him valuable. He didn't distract from the story. He made it feel real.
You mean ride like them ancient Romans? Yeah. You! Let's go, Sandy!
Because familiarity without recognition is one of the most powerful tools in film. The man who was everywhere. Then there's Strather Martin, a completely different presence. Where Carey felt grounded, Martin felt unpredictable. His voice, his expressions, his timing. He could shift a scene just by speaking. Appearing in films like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Wild Bunch. He wasn't there to blend in. He stood out, but never enough to take over. That balance is rare, because a character actor has to be memorable, without breaking the world of film.
Come on, TC. Help me get his boots.
Wow, this is right.
Well, I guess there aren't any troops within 30 or 40 miles now.
Oh, 60, late.
Oh, 62.
Vicksburg.
Take that up with the man who stole it.
Tom Cheney stole it while it was in your care. You are responsible.
I admire your sand, but I'm not liable.
I will
Have you heard?
And that's where the best ones operate, right on the edge of being noticed.
Try it.
A gunman who never missed a role. Look at Leanne Clee. Before becoming a lead in spaghetti westerns, he was everywhere. Silent, sharp, unmistakable. Directors used him for one reason: presence. He didn't need long dialogue. He didn't need explanation. The moment he appeared, you understood the threat, and that made him incredibly efficient on screen. One shot, one look, and the audience already knows what's coming.
Take me, oh my darling, on this earth.
Hello, Frank.
How are you, Frank?
Everything ready?
Sure, just the way you want it, Frank.
Yeah, we got your gun over here.
Because some actors don't build tension over time. They bring it with them. The professional supporting cast. Now consider Jack Elam. If you've seen westerns, you've seen his eyes. Unbalanced, unpredictable, impossible to ignore. Elam didn't play traditional villains. He played instability. And directors used that. Because westerns rely heavily on tension. And tension often comes from uncertainty. You don't know what he'll do. And that unpredictability creates pressure in every scene he's in.
near the jail, Mr. Ketchum. My rheumatism's kind of bad, so don't do nothing to put a strain on my fingers.
Don't try, Tom. Whatever you got in your head, you forget it. He wants you to try something. He's crazy.
He's right. Got another barrel left. Get in there.
Because sometimes the important character in a scene is the one you don't trust. The men who filled the world. Then there are actors like Dub Taylor. Not a gunfighter, not a dominant force, but essential. He played townspeople, side characters, voices of the environment. And that matters more than it seems, because westerns just don't need action. They need a world, a place that feels lived in. And actors like Taylor created that, again and again, film after film.
So don't let me down!
Because without those faces, the West doesn't feel real.
Ain't that something? That's something for me, ain't it?
The directors who relied on them. Directors didn't reuse these actors by accident. They relied on them. Sam Peckinpah reused familiar faces to maintain tone. Howard Hawks did the same, because when you bring back the same actors, you bring back consistency. You build a world that feels connected, even across different stories. And for the audience, that familiarity becomes invisible, but powerful. Because what feels like coincidence is often design. Why you never notice them. So why don't most viewers remember these actors? Because they weren't meant to. They weren't marketed. They weren't promoted. They weren't the selling point. They were the structure, the foundation, the pieces that held everything together. And when everything worked perfectly, you don't notice it until you look for it. Go back and watch your favorite westerns again, but this time, don't focus on the stars. Look at the edges of the frame, the men standing slightly behind the action, the faces that appear, disappear, then appear again in another film, and you'll start to see it, a hidden layer of the Western genre, built not by legends, but by repetition, by reliability, by actors who showed up, again and again, until they became part of the world itself. And once you see them, you realize something. The West wasn't just created by heroes. It was built by the men you never learned the names of. If you want to see more actors like these, let me know. I may make a series. If you enjoy this video, hit notification to get my new videos. Check out my channel and Facebook page. The links are in the description below. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. I appreciate it. I am Wrangler. Bye for now. See you again soon.
Rooting for you, Butch.
Well, thank you, Flatnose.
All you need is a price on your head, and you've got that, haven't you?
We sure do.
Then it's all settled, and I'm coming with you.
Yeah!
And as I recall, your party had no right to be in Gray Cloud's hunting grounds. And since then, a treaty has been signed and there's been no trouble.
Now.
Stand away or be shot! He's under protection of the law!
You got their fucking attention.
I think he's headed this way. Well, thank you, boys. Y'all take care.
Medicine.
Medicine. You don't expect us to believe that.
Here, listen to this. Convicted of embezzlement.
I'll be with you as soon as I help the lady here.
Canary bird! Parasol! Put down that darn bird, will you?
Taking it.
You remember me? I like the way you die, boy.
The channel for westerns and more. If you enjoyed this video, hit notification to get my new videos. Check out my channel and Facebook page. The links are in the description below. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. I appreciate it. I am Wrangler. Bye for now. See you again soon.